Welcome to this live tribe call, gentlemen. My number one thing with these live tribe calls is to connect with you. I was asking Mike if he could hear me before, and we had Back in Black. I had Back in Black from AC/DC playing, and it makes me think, number one, it was my high school football 5 touchdowns in a single game song back from high school, Back in Black. And I was thinking that only a certain kind of man is going to show up for our theme today. Our theme of today is how to deepen your masculine edge. And what does that mean? What does that mean within this brotherhood here? We're going to be getting into that today. And my number one thing is a conversation with you, whether you're here live or you're watching this as a recording and you have questions later on and you want to post in the forum. I love seeing you guys here. Mike's here, Larry's here, John's here. When you guys keep your cameras on. Randy, Kurt, Jeff, Mike, Amin, Harry, Evan. So if you guys could turn your cameras on, I'd really appreciate it. We can get involved here together. So a quick housekeeping. This is being recorded. Hey, buddy. This is being recorded, and this will be shown within Steve Horseman and Dan Doors, of course, Good Guys to Great Men and the Roundtable. And in my community, Great Men Move Mountains. And I want you to ask questions. I want you to ask questions in the chat. I want you to ask questions by going down to the reactions button here in Zoom and raising your hand. And in the chat right now, I posted, if you want to get a hold of myself or Steve Horseman, if you're wanting to know about coaching, you can follow those links there. And I'm certainly happy to answer more questions for you. So let's get into how to deepen your masculine edge now. And I'm going to go over to you guys very, very quickly. My 3 bullet points were: grow personal passion and direction in your life, earn real respect and have more fun, and easier and automatic desire from women. These are things we want. And what you know here, if you're showing up for how to deepen your masculine edge for this call, you're most likely not on day 1 of this work, right? You've been reading books, you've been in the forums, whether it's Good Guys to Great Men or Great Men Move Mountains or Mentoring Men, right? You've been posting, you've been unveiling your wants and your values, and you've been practicing how to stand up for your boundaries. Maybe you've lost 30 pounds or 50 pounds like a lot of guys that I work with. Maybe you've hitting personal records in the gym. Maybe you've gotten a promotion since you began this work, because you know being here and wanting to deepen your masculine edge is about your personal passion, your compass direction in life, earning respect and having more fun and automatic desire. So let me bounce to you guys first. What do you think is masculine edge? What do you think is masculine edge? What are you here to learn today? Let's start with Mike, since I called on Mike before I hit record. Mike, coming in. What does masculine edge mean to you? What does masculine edge mean to you?
Just pulling into a spot over here, Jeff. Thanks. You sound like a radio host, by the way. You sound like a radio host.
Hey, Mike, pause for a second for me. I think I'm gonna mute everybody else. I'm getting some echo. I sound like a radio DJ. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, go for it. Go for it, Mike. Let's try it now. Yeah.
Yeah, just pulling in over here now. Yeah, so I've been part of the community, the Roundtable. I've done some private coaching with Steve for a while, and just starting to get a lot more into it now. You know, a lot of this stuff is really starting to sink in for me. And, you know, the longer I've been listening to it and participating, the more I realize that, you know, it's like a few basic concepts, and it's almost become like, holy shit, man, this is kind of like common sense. Like, why was I ever a hummingbird? Like, you know, I take it back to when I was like younger, when I was like, I don't know, 18, 19. And I think I had probably more girlfriends than I had birthdays by the time I was 25 years old. And a lot of it was predicated on the fact, now that I, you know, look back, that I didn't really give a shit. You know, like, you hang out with all your buddies at college and everybody else is hanging all over the girls, and you're the guy who's like, you know, not really paying attention. And you become, you know, the focus of attention because you're not paying attention. And I lost that. I got married 23 years ago, and I had 4 children, and I become the husband, the father, the lawn cutter, the provider, all that stuff. And I placed a huge amount of significance on myself. I predicated on those, identities in my life. And I forgot to be that guy. And I lost a lot of friendships along the way. I lost ties with everybody. So I think to answer your question, what does it mean? For me, it means going back to those days where I don't want to say not give a shit. That's not the right way to phrase it, but to kind of like let shit roll off my shoulders a little bit more, not to get so deep into thought and chase those thoughts that are, you know, where is she? What is she doing? Like more like, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do to have fun today? And so to deepen my masculine edge, I kind of want to, and I've become insecure over the years. And I think, I lost that masculine edge that I had when I was younger, which Steve tells me is very common. And I just want to get it back. I'm making great strides. When in doubt, keep your mouth shut, kind of. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it's still not 100%. It's still not 100% like just natural to me. Sometimes, I'll think too deeply in a low mood, and then I'll let that train go, and then I start chasing those stupid emotions, and then I open my mouth, and then I put my foot in my mouth, and then I start all over again. So that's the long answer to your question. What do I think it means? I think it means just, be cool, calm down. Don't try and solve everything today. But I still need to get better at putting it into practice. I get it in concept. I'm getting better at putting it into practice. But the impetus for me being on today's call is to kind of help me, put it into practice.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said, Mike. I appreciate that. Yeah, we all sort of get lulled into the cultural expectations and the primal urge that we have to provide and protect, right? And so we end up losing
Right.
ourselves. We end up leaning way too far and falling off of the cliff of who the hell are we? And why would she be attracted to? There's nothing left of us. Yeah. And so
Right.
that's beautiful. Very well said, Mike. I appreciate you starting us off,
And you,
buddy.
you just left something out like that's important is that along that whole path, I used to be real focused and purposeful, and I kind of like lost all that. And I still have, I raised my kids. I'm a good dad, but I don't have like, that eye of the tiger anymore, where there's something that I'm
Yeah.
waking up and dying to do every day. You know what I mean? And she sees that, and I see that, and this has helped me, like just being part of these calls and stuff, because working on yourself is purpose, and I didn't realize that for a long time, and kind of got like
Yeah.
this new enthusiasm about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for you, Mike, and I'll say to everybody here and any man watching that being on this journey right now is mission, is purpose in this chapter of life. It doesn't need
Right.
to be one purpose for your entire life, right, Mike? It doesn't need to be one, I'm Superman, I'm going to cure cancer. If you do, great, but what's after that anyway? Right? What's after you make
Right.
the $5 million goal? What's after you have the 4 kids? What's after you get the next promotion? Because I don't know if you can relate to this, Mike, but for me, I've had periods where, kind of workaholic. I've had periods where I've had lots of money. I've had periods where didn't have much money. And then now I have much more freedom in my life because I've grown my business and my practice the way I've wanted, right? It's taken me all of my adult life, over 20 years, to build it to this point. But now I can take days off. Now I can go on vacation. Now I can travel the world. And guess what? I think you'd agree, Mike, that there's still a then what? There's still a then what do I do
Yeah.
tomorrow? That's always
Right.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Good. I appreciate you beginning us, Mike. Is it thanks, buddy? I'm gonna move on. Is it Amin? Help me with the pronunciation, buddy. Amin.
No, it's
Amin. Fantastic. Yeah. What does masculine edge mean to
fantastic.
you,
Yeah, what does
Amin?
masculine edge mean to you? So I'm relatively new to the process. I joined the group, I'd say, I think it's probably late March or sometime, I'd say no, early April. But I'm doing the work. I watched a lot of the recordings, reading a lot of books, et cetera, et cetera. And that definition continues to be kind of molded as I understand it more, as I kind of try to live it and, practice it, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, right now, I would say the number one thing is just accepting the self, one, being comfortable with who you are, not letting, the events of your life, whether currently now, um, marriage is pretty much, we're working through a separation, all of that stuff. Now, when I joined this, initially it was like, okay, classic hummingbird, like, what can I do to get her back? And even though I'm hearing everything, like, okay, it's got to be about you first, you got to detach from, I was like, no, 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 I'm gonna take all these little tricks, and this is gonna, this is how I'm gonna get her back. I have removed myself from that now. I've kind of, in a way, come to, accept, what my relationship is going to be like going forward with my wife, and at some point going to be ex-wife. So the focus, it really, that helped me kind of really focus in on the idea of, you have to be, one, comfortable with you. So how do you do that? And then also walk with purpose. What is your purpose? You thought you had a purpose. Okay, maybe you had some ideas down. This is where I want to be in 5 years, 10 years. But I think we all kind of have that, but it's just not necessarily well thought out. At least for me, I would say, it was almost like a wish list. Well, 5 years from now, this is what I do. Or 10 years, this is my plan for 15 years. And I'm getting closer to like really defining those things that, like, okay, this is what I want going forward. This is where I see myself. But I think the base for that defined foundation is, you have to love you. You have to, the insecurities that you built or carried into relationships or just day-to-day life, and then that sometimes, or in my case, were magnified by, the events of, of my marriage. I have to work on those, address those, and make sure that, like, you're not carrying those insecurities that get in the way of, defining and accepting yourself first.
Yeah,
So
totally. I mean, let me
if
jump
you're
in.
not comfortable,
And for some reason, when I speak and you're unmuted, I hear myself echo. So I just muted you for the moment, right? It's like, now I hear the DJ voice. Okay, fair enough. That's why I bought this beautiful microphone. I mean, yeah. No, so, so a couple things that you just said. First of all, one question I have for you is, what was the shift for you? What happened for you to move away from the, and by the way, every man goes through this, the, okay, I'm going to learn these tips and these tricks, and I'm going to like kind of get my way, still covert contract, still manipulation. Basically, I'm going to see if I can just put some, sprinkles on top of the shit sandwich and like try to move forward. So that's one thing I want to ask you about. Yeah. And the other is, how are you finding passion in the current moment? Because your whole, and I understand what you're saying. I mean, the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan, right? And often, I mean, shit, when the earth is quaking underneath us and the fissure is opening and lava is spewing out of our relationship or career, or something that's, or child is sick, or a parent is having trouble, this kind of thing, it's lava just shooting everywhere. 5 years, fuck 5 years. How about like 5 minutes, right? So when we take the binoculars off our face and we focus on finding power in this moment and gratitude and presence in this moment. So what are you focused on, for instance, in this chapter of life? And what helped you move away from the, okay, I'm going to learn just some manipulative tactics, and now I'm actually going to do this for myself? Yeah, please unmute yourself. Come back in.
okay. So without going into a long story about, like marriage and everything like that, just like I'll try to be as brief and concise as possible. So a couple months ago, got the "I love you, but I'm not in love with you," and it seemed, like for most men, just very, very sudden. And a couple of weeks later, it was okay. Well, I don't want to put in any more work into the relationship. This is done. And that's where I actually was at the height of the humming, because I put it like, it's all, what is it about me? What did I, what did I do wrong? This is not necessarily me saying this to her, but this is what was going on here. But then I found out, and I found out that she was having an affair, is having an affair with her boss. She doesn't know that I know, but from that knowledge, I learned that in knowing some specifics, I learned that, this wasn't about me. Yes, I contributed to, her getting to that stage of, not happy with the marriage or whatever. But it's not about you. Some of these external things are not about you. And that shifted the focus of like, okay, it's not like what's wrong with me, or why did she see this, or what does she think about me? It's like, okay, decision is made. I have no interest at this point in changing that. So it just kind of locked me right back in, internally. It's like, all right, well, now you definitely need to just focus in on you. So that's hopefully the answer to your first question. I actually forget the second question. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and again, I'm just gonna press mute on you because I hear the echo when I talk. Well, how did you decide to move on from manipulation? And it sounds like what you're explaining to me, right, is the fucking bridge kind of crumbled underneath you, basically. And by the way, not every man would be as stalwart in deciding to work on yourself and just let her take, that wasn't about you. Yes, I love your responsibility for leading up to pains in the marriage, and for both of you feeling like the marriage, or for her feeling like the marriage, is underwater. And then when women act differently, every woman is different. When she feels like the relationship is underwater, what is she going to do? Your particular woman, is she going to collapse inside? Is she going to go back to college, start to work too much, want to have another child, close herself off, or want to open herself to another man, for instance? And it depends. But when she feels like the relationship is underwater. So your point was, okay, this thing happened that's so far beyond my boundary that it almost helped you not do this in a manipulative way. Yeah. So other men aren't in that spot necessarily. And it takes 1 or 2 years for them to really see. I think guys can relate to this. 1 or 2 years, or to see that I really do need to do this for me. Because every time I go to her and she rolls her eyes, or she isn't nice to me, that if you feel kind of butthurt and you get the what the fuck face, like that's my what the fuck face, where it just looks like I'm pissed off and my eyebrows scrunch all up and I get the laser vision, the what the fuck face has like pretty much never helped me in any aspect of any of my life. So I ditched the what the fuck face a long time ago. But so my other question for you real quick, and then we'll take a step forward, but is how do you see this current chapter for you? What are you doing right now? So you're on the call with us. Awesome. What else are you doing in this chapter of your life to bring more fire within you? Please, yeah, unmute yourself.
Well, I kind of broke it down into 2 things. One is actually kind of, and this is the more difficult part, is ownership in my role and how I got here. So a lot of reflecting back with knowledge that I have now through you guys and through a lot of reading about, okay, what did you do to contribute to this? And now the reason why I'm doing that is like, okay, those are things that I need to fix for the future, for me, for whatever, for one, just for living day-to-day life, but also for whatever, relationship may come in the future. Not that I'm focused on that at the moment. So there's that part. And I'd say that part's kind of difficult, because looking back is always, I think I'm doing it in a constructive way. I'm doing it for a reason, instead of just kind of wallowing in, oh, should have, could have, whatever. The second part is just, getting back to who I was before like the last like 3 or 4 years. Like, okay, I was there, I had a certain independence, I had a certain drive and love for life that kind of was started to dull with, we're with parenthood. I have a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. The day-to-day stress of that just kind of like, okay, I got to, I work, I got to do the parent stuff, and okay, we yell at each other, we're stressed, and you get stuck in this bubble. So it's like, okay, rediscovering who you are and like, okay, following your passions. And it's not just to stay busy, but it's like, okay, what do you like to do? What have you feel that, you put off that is really going to bring you some happiness and sense of like self? And so that's one part of it. And the other is just, again, just, being able to accept yourself for who you are unapologetically. Yes, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying that there's not work to do there, but you have to accept yourself. You have to have that air of, when you look in the mirror, you say, this is you. You like you. Yes, you have some work, but you like you. You love you. And you love you enough to invest in you daily. I could not necessarily say that all the time because my definition of me was so tied to my spouse for a long time, and vice versa. We were very, very, very interdependent, or such say codependent on each other for our happiness, for everything. And that was something that I realized early in this journey that I'm on now, and trying to fix. It's like, you're the one, you have to define who you are first before anybody else can see you as that. So if you're not happy with
let me
yourself,
jump in.
you're not content.
Let me jump in. You're good, man. So how long have you been doing this work, would you say? How long have you been around the community? And I have to mute you because I just get echoes. I apologize. So go ahead and unmute yourself again.
March, probably late March, very late March, like 27th, I'd say, is when I joined. I joined the diffuse the divorce boss.
So like 6 weeks.
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Can I do something with you right now?
Go ahead.
Okay, I gotta mute you because otherwise everybody's gonna be hearing me twice, or I'm hearing me twice, or I'm hearing me again. Okay. So right this moment, and if you're listening to this, I suggest you do this too, right? So right this moment, I want you to relax your eyebrows, yeah, and relax your traps so your shoulders are down, and breathe like 3 big breaths into your belly. Okay, and try not to raise your shoulders when you do it. Just like, right, like. Yeah. Now tell me one thing that you're doing for yourself in life right now and put a period at the end of the sentence. So unmute yourself. Tell me one thing you're doing for yourself. I don't want to hear about your wife right this second, right? Tell me one thing you're doing for yourself and put a period at the end.
Connecting with high value friends. High value is not the word, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. And period.
Very nice. I love it. And so that was 20 seconds of me leading you into what you want to do. So let me take a step back. I absolutely fucking relate to your story. I mean, like 100%. We could talk about it more another time. Like, oh, she's fucking somebody else, and who am I? And oh my God, I didn't know all this. And like, I could absolutely relate to your story. And I'm proud of you for being here. I love that you're here. Yeah. And I've worked with hundreds of men for 20,000, 25,000 hours. And I wanted to give you just a piece of that one next thing, if you were willing to be open to it, which is, for you, the one next step is to open your heart and be in your body. Do you know what I mean by open your heart and be in your body? What does that mean to you? I mean, come on in. Go and mute yourself. Yeah.
Well, I was actually going to ask you to kind of, elaborate on that a little bit more. I think I have a general concept, but I'm probably off a little bit. So if you can elaborate, I'd be grateful.
Sure. Yeah. No, I like you. I like you. So I'm probably off with this. We all have to practice, right? Like when you're learning to ride a bike or play a new sport or in your career, or when you learn a new skill, right? Or you go to the gym, like we're always awful at things at the beginning, unless you're just magically perfect at something, in which fuck you. But otherwise, like we have to practice these things, and that's okay. So how do I want to do this in a succinct way? So there's our mind, there's our mind, our thoughts, right? Monkey mind, thinking of the future, trying to manipulate. Yeah. Then there's our body and our heart, where to be in our body means to be in the present moment, to be breathing deep into your belly, not the fuck you face like I used to have, the what the fuck face that I used to do unconsciously. But it's aware, to me, it's relaxing my forehead and my eyebrows, right? Putting my shoulders down and then breathing into my belly. And that brings me into my body. And so to open your heart to feel into the present moment for you or colleagues or children or women around you or other men that want to look up to your leadership, they want to feel your heart, unless they're just relying on your intellectual skill and you're kind of just one of the spokes in the wheel and you're just your intellectual skills all you're using. Cool. But when you want to lead yourself and when you want to lead others, they're going to want to feel your presence and feel your heart. Yeah. And the third piece, right, is our soul, which is, well, the 5-year vision or 10-year vision, or what's my overarching direction in life, or how do I relate to nature and love and, you know, the why. Maybe you call it God, maybe you call it service, maybe you call it blooming love in the world, maybe you call it just facing the next challenge, right? So head, heart, and soul. And we as men are very head heavy, usually, especially at the beginning of this. I know I was. And so what I just did is brought you into more of the body. Yeah, buddy. And soul and purpose is what we're talking about today, too. So that was phenomenal. I mean, I'm going to take a step forward, but that was fantastic. And I can always use those reminders too, right? I'm not here to do like a 2-hour meditation with you. My meditations are usually 5 minutes, or walking out in nature with no music on, you know, so I can appreciate the trees and the clouds and the mountains here in Colorado and purposefully think of the things I'm grateful for in life. Like I want these practices to be easy and relatively short. They don't need to take super long time. So that's where it can be appreciative. So I definitely want to jump over to other guys that have their cameras on, because the engagement is what I enjoy about this. And I find the engagement is what's most helpful, and hearing other men speak. So Larry's here, Jeff's here, Kurt's also here with their cameras on. Stacy came in, John's got his camera back on. So I'm going to step forward and then we'll bounce back to you guys for sure. So the 3 pieces that I was just basically unfolding with Amin, to me, around masculine edge, are moving through fear, understanding your fear, being aware of your fear, and moving through fear or stepping toward fear in a calibrated way, through fear to love. Now, what does love mean to you? You might love the challenge of the hunt. You might love connecting with your children. You might love growing your career. You might love researching real estate or the market, or it may just be being in the present, more of a spiritual love. So moving through fear to bloom love into responsibility for your own freedom. And I'm showing the Stoic triangle here, which I utilize. Let me actually zoom in a little bit. Zoom in on the screen a little bit. The Stoic triangle is something I utilize in all of my work, in my one-on-one work, within the Kingly Life Path program that I lead. Also, Sven Masterson and I are going to use this within the Masters in Manhood group that we're launching. I'll tell you about later on this call. The Stoic triangle. The 3 sides of the Stoic triangle are virtue, which is our integrity, our values, our boundaries. And then control means what can we control, and taking responsibility for what we can control and not for what we cannot. And then responsibility for our actions, right? Responsibility for what we can control, responsibility for our values and our boundaries, and taking action on those things. And moving toward responsibility as a man, the quintessential masculine is to move toward freedom. And how do we do that? We identify our fears. We move through our fears into love for ourselves or what we're doing, or blooming service and love in the world. And that offers us freedom as a man, freedom to stand up for our integrity and what we believe in our purpose. And if you're taking notes, I'd love for you to write down fear, love, and freedom and ask yourself, can I identify where there's a fear in my life? Am I leaning toward that? How am I blooming love, or what do I love within myself, or the way I'm bringing service to the world, or the way I'm producing in the world? Right? We could have a whole conversation about that. And how does that help me move toward freedom? What does that feel like to stand up for who I am and what I want? How does that move toward freedom? And also go forward here. So I typed this up. A man with edge. I'm going to go over to Larry. I don't ask you about this, and we'll talk to Jeff and Kurt about this too. So I certainly have more. I have examples from the book Way of the Superior Man we're going to get into. I have some movies to chat about really fast where they're personified. And a man with edge. A man with edge, he's present, as I was just speaking about, right, with Amin. He follows his own compass. When he has to know which way that's pointing, like, what does that even mean to follow your own compass? Okay, if your compass is spinning in circles, that's not good. So we need to point our compass in the direction we want. He's passionate when he moves into the world and with what he does. He's totally okay in tense moments, right? So he's aware of his emotions, and he's totally okay if right this minute she doesn't like him, or right this minute the board is upset with you, or right this minute the market is going down, or right this minute your kid gives you the middle finger. Right? I've been in all those places. You're totally okay in tense moments. You can breathe through them. You don't rush. You have perspective. A man with edge knows how to find gratitude under pain, and a man with edge is willing to face challenge and even death, because you will face challenge and death regardless. So Larry, how did these bullets hit you? Which one of these really jumps out to you, and what can you share with us about a man with edge?
Okay, so for me, you guys can hear me, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So for me, as I following through that, as I've been on this journey for 2.5 years since I heard the bomb, but I didn't find as I call them, the Colorado Cowboys, Steve and Tim, until like a year and 3 months ago. So like 15 months ago, like, so I'd already been told I want out of this marriage for 15 months before I got to start that. And I recognized the whole problem with the whole hummingbird, and that's exactly what I was doing. So for the man with the edge, I guess is the part is I was that guy, and before I got married, even early in my marriage, leading what we had to do, run my practice. This is what I got to do for work, and I was very focused. And I think it was kind of, you're in charge of the kids in the house, and I got to run our veterinary practice, and this is what I got to do. And I put everything I had into work. And I was able to make every one of those decisions. Like, this is what we're going to do at work. This is our next step. We're buying this piece of equipment. We got to, move this, shift this over to here. I answered 1,000 questions a day. I came home. I became one of her kids. I came home. I didn't want to think anymore. I didn't want to be, don't make me, Mrs. Johnson can have another refill. Fine, give it to her. Like, I didn't want to deal with that anymore. And I think I became her other child in some ways. And I became more and more, as time went on, needy, I guess, almost in a way. And I know that partly is what drove us apart, was I became that. And I didn't know to take responsibility when she was starting to say, I want out, and you're a horrible husband, you're a horrible dad to our kids and all that. I was taking that personally at first. I was defending myself, and I've learned, no, that was her redirecting her own frustrations and her whole, I'm 49, 50. What am I going to do with my life when our last kid leaves high school? Midlife zone, or what do we want to call that? Unraveling, as Steve calls it now. She was blaming me, but I really learned that was really about her. So the biggest thing is, we go through those steps about following your own compass. That's what I need to redirect myself to. And I've really been working on doing that, about what do I want in life? And you invite her along to come along the ride. And I realize I very well may be getting divorced here. I don't, and I accept that now. We've been separated for more than a year that she moved out, but yet she won't take the next step. It's like, oh, I'm still on your health insurance. We're still sharing a bank account. And she's been responsible, don't get me wrong. But there's some frustration there, because she's like, I'm going to hang out right in the middle. And I need to learn to keep leading myself, and then eventually say, hey, time's up. What are we doing here? In a very loving and respectable way, that we can't hang out in the middle of being in the what do you want to call it? The what do they call it? The tweener zone, or the what's the word I'm looking for? Um, la la.
Limbo
What is it?
land.
Limbo land. Yes, there was the word I'm looking for. Now, Steve told me, you're making the choice to stay where it is, or you could just go file for divorce right now. But I've heard a couple of the other guys talk on there that, I really have a religious component of being, I'm going to go file for divorce, but I'm the one who doesn't believe in divorce, and neither one of us had an affair. So I'm kind of, I'm getting tugged two different directions of, it's hard for me to say, okay, let's go file for divorce, but I'm not the one who wants it. I mean, that's frustrating for me. And I guess the part is about I'm trying to be the best guy I can be and learn to do everything. And part of my compass is I'm winding down, I'm now in the second half of my career, and my last kid's going to go away to college here in 3 months. And I go from a household with 3 kids to, I'm living with my 3 kids. My wife's the one who left, and I'm going to go from 3 kids to no kids in a matter of about next August, when a couple of them go back to school and my daughter moves out because she graduates. And you're like, okay, now I'm by myself. So I really need to have that purpose of what do I want for me and what I need to be able to do.
Yeah, I love it, Larry. There's about 4 different conversations we could spin off of what you just said, which is fantastic, right? As far as like Sven and I have had conversations on our podcast, Masters in Manhood, around the religious aspects of commitment, of course. And so I'll just put that on the shelf for the moment, right? But if we go back to you for the concept of the pointing your compass, following your own compass, what's a hunch? Just give me a hunch. Like you feel it, in your gut or in the shower in the morning. You're like, yeah, that would be really cool. What's a hunch for you of something that you haven't yet unfolded for yourself, or maybe you have put off or you shied away from for some reason? What's
You mean
something for
the long
you,
term
not
or for the short term?
say again?
For the long term or for the short term?
Well, either. Which one comes up? And not regarding your wife, but I'm in this question.
No,
It's about
I guess
you.
for the
Yeah.
long term would be is, what are my next step plans as my kids leave? And what am I going to do for me? I need to make the plans for myself and don't involve her, or don't ask her to be part of the decision. I mean, just do what you're going to do. And it's up to her whether or not she wants to join you. If you want to say that, but I need to make those plans. What am I going to do as my second half of my career when it's out here? What do I want to do when I retire or partially retire here?
Sure.
And
What's your hunch? Like mine is, I'm a member of Rotary Club, right? Volunteer organization. We haven't had meetings in person since the pandemic began, and now they're starting to come up again. But prior to that, Reddit did the 3-year term of vice president, president, post president, this kind of thing. And we raised about $100,000 a year to give away and such and such. And one of the parts of the Rotary is there are marina yacht clubs, right? Or sailing clubs, not so much yacht, but sailing clubs all around the world. Rotary's in something like 200 countries, almost every single country, aside from those that don't like Westerners. So there's yacht clubs, boat clubs all around the world. Something that I want to do. I sailed. My grandfather taught me to sail when I was a kid. And, here in Colorado, not too many lakes like there were in Minnesota, right? They go up in Minnesota, it's like, no, that's not a lake. That's a spittoon. So I want to sail basically when I retire, right? And so something I have not yet done, which I could do, is go call these yacht clubs on the East Coast or West Coast of the US, for instance. And they're all over the world. But that's something that I recognize for myself that I want to do, that I haven't yet done. So what's something specific that you have a hunch of what you'd want to do? Yeah, when the 3rd kid moves out. And what's a hunch for you, Larry?
I got 2. One, where do I want to stay here in Pittsburgh where I live to continue to wind down my career, or do I want to move somewhere else? Colorado's on the list. I went to vet school at Colorado State, moved back there and practice part-time and have basically a semi-retirement job. That's one thing, is where am I going to do with me personally? And then 2, I still enjoy going hiking and mountain climbing and to continue that career. I still climb a fair amount and continue that career. I still go with my dad sometimes. He's 83 years old and we still go climbing. He and I did Kilimanjaro before.
You did?
So,
nice. That's on the list for some other guys I've been speaking with too. Yeah.
So I've done that. I had to work out to keep in shape with my dad. So I make sure, I'm the one who could summit and watch my dad go up there. So we did that, but I would continue to do that. And I got a couple of my kids that enjoy doing it also. So to be able to continue staying in shape enough, I'm 55, to stay in shape enough to be able to continue to be physically active, to be able to do that.
Very cool. So no pressure. Do you have a 14er on your calendar? Do you have a mountain climb?
I'm going to Peru in August with my daughter to climb Machu Picchu.
Oh, nice.
Trail. So she and I have that
Dude.
plan. We climb Machu Picchu and another one called Rainbow Mountain. It's like 16, I think.
Wow.
So that's on the list. That's in the very near future.
Very cool, Larry. Badass. Slam dunk. Yeah, good.
So I got other ones after that. You plan other ones. So
beautiful. So it sounds like you're leaning into this work masterfully, Larry, and it's painful. And if you and I were to talk one-on-one in a different, spot, I would ask you about this limbo land that you're in and the what you want. But that's, let's have that conversation another time. But for your own self, yeah, on fire to go step up to Machu Picchu. Good for you. Very cool.
One other comment. You talk about doing stuff with your buddies. So I have one buddy that he and I go walk 3 or 4 times a week, try to do 5 to 8 miles. We already went this morning, and that's, for weight control and keeping in shape. So I have a really dear friend that I'm able to confide in, and he knows what's going on. And he tells me his wife is crazy and lives with her. He's not sure I have the better deal or not. He and I joke. He's got to deal with his own issues with her being there. And then the other part is I still play the competitive men's softball leagues. I still play like 3 days a week softball. And I think it was one of the things that drove my wife crazy is like, dude, you're still playing ball. You're not in Little League anymore. But that's what I got to do for me. Am I supposed to give up what I love?
Wait, that's what she said? She said you're not in Little League anymore? Oh, man, I would have made such a joke out of that.
So but I coached my son's Little League teams, baseball teams. I went to all my kids' baseball games. I coached my son through baseball through 18 years old. So don't tell me I wasn't a good dad when I was like made everything from preschool art shows to coaching baseball and basketball.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're right. You're right in that she's projecting a lot of stuff onto you for sure. But if she tells you this isn't Little League anymore, I want you to tell her she's a cheerleader and she needs to get some pom-poms and jump up and down in front of you right now. That's what I would say. Like, come on, be my Little League cheerleader right now.
No, here's just to throw this out there. Last night we celebrated Mother's Day and we went to eat, and she came with us. I mean, or I should say, we took her out to eat. All 5 of us, the 3 kids and me, all went out to dinner with her to someplace called Hofbräu House, so we could drink a bunch of beer. But that's okay. But we went and did that last night as a family, and you would have almost known there was no problem there whatsoever. Everything went well. So
yeah, Larry, you and I should definitely have a one-on-one conversation, because what you just described was family time.
Yep.
And family time, right? Family time for a woman is not intimate time with you. Like, they are not.
No, I agree.
Yeah, they're not the same things. But to your point of, I just want to circle back to, it sounds like you're growing your life phenomenally. And obviously you're in a tough spot with your wife and the limbo land. And so, yeah, let me press pause and let's you and I talk about the limbo land another time. Absolutely. Okay. I'd love to do that with you. Yeah. Thanks, Larry. George, thanks for raising your hand and being patient, buddy. Come on in.
No, thank you. And these sessions are fantastic. I have no intentions of climbing any mountains, but I'm moving mountains. I'm heading to the golf course, and I'm enjoying what this brotherhood you've created brings. And you do a great job, Jeff. And what I want you to maybe understand is I'm 59. I've been in limbo land for a couple of years. She's checked in, she's checked out, she's told me I'm checking back in and everything else. But basically, when I tried to plan vacations and finances and things, it led her to finally make the call that she wants to separate, and told the kids recently that if she had to make the decision today, it would be divorce. And she's up in another state with her parents who are old and needing her help. But I think it's all a smokescreen. I think that she's just been waiting for the right opportunity to pull the trigger with my daughter about to graduate high school. Sad thing is, I love her to death. and I want her to be her own individual, and I'm just working on my own individual approach to life. Mountain climbing's not in the future, but my oldest kid's amazing. He's up in Virginia, and he wants me to come up and have a guys' weekend and go up and see friends in DC and hit a few IPA pubs because that's his interest, among other things. And normally I would be saying, you know, hey, I won't mention the wife's name necessarily, but hey, you know, would you consider a trip to Virginia and DC so we go up and see Mac? And I'm not worried about the we now. She's made it clear there currently is no we. So I booked the flight. I'm going up in June, and we're going to spend some time. And to me, my priority is my kids, and I hope she checks back in. I really don't want to make a midlife or a late life change. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. In your 50s, you're not midlife unless you're Gandhi. I mean, but I'm not really ready for a wholesale change. I do love her. I appreciate her. I like what she's developing into. But now that she's found her voice, she said some pretty harsh things, and we're working through it. But really, this is more just about some props for what I hear, and to see all of us are going through the same thing in many ways.
Yeah, 100%. And George, I recognize your voice, and I appreciate you being on here again, certainly. And you know, my heart goes out to you, of course, for this. This is not what you wanted, right? You wanted her to open back up. Can I ask you a question about that real quick, George?
Absolutely.
So a man yesterday asked me, how can I build the staircase of intimacy with my wife when she's not wanting to be in a committed relationship with me, when she's wanting divorce or she's in the process of divorce? And long story short, it was an hour conversation I had with him, but long story short, could you potentially see your wife as a woman that you're just dating, like for fun, having a glass of wine, or let's say it's a first date. And I don't know about you, but I never usually went for sex on the first date. I'd go for a kiss on the first date. But, you know, let's say it's a first date. So you're not trying to go for sex and you want to have fun with this woman. Not to say that she's willing to accept that right now necessarily, right? But this man asking me the point of where your wife is right now. So the spectrum of masculine to feminine, archetypal masculine, which we're speaking a lot about today, and our archetypal feminine, when she's fully in feminine, she's giving herself, she's pouring herself, and she's unstructured. And for a woman, it feels, let's say, very vulnerable and even unsafe to her humanity, right? To her ego. It feels unsafe to fully pour herself into a man. And for many women, they feel like they've done that their whole adult lives. Whether that's, you know, whether you think that's true or not, they feel so unsafe and ungrounded and vulnerable when they fully pour themselves into their archetypal desire of feminine bloom. And so she doesn't want to feel that unstructured. When a woman's going through divorce and wants space and all this, she wants to feel more structured in herself. She doesn't want to feel so vulnerable. Well, the middling space is like a fun space. It's a woman wanting to have fun. You guys have heard this, right? I want to either get back into my career, or I lost my youth in my 20s and I want to go have fun again. Well, basically what she's saying is she doesn't want to feel so vulnerable when a woman's in relationship. She wants her feminine desires to pour herself completely into the masculine man, into the masculine man's frame. Yeah. And so this middling ground is more fun. And this is a big almost ask, George, and this isn't an hour-long one-on-one with you, but the two of you, and Larry even said, "Yeah, we went out as a family." Okay, cool. But what about just you one-on-one? So has there been any one-on-one just fun times with you and your wife, George, recently?
Oh, Jeff, I got to tell you, 3-4 days before she hit her breaking point and told me she wanted to separate, we went to see the new Spider-Man movie, and
okay, I haven't seen it yet.
It was great. All of our regular restaurants were filled, so we We went to a pizza dive and split a sub and laughed. And she made a joke in the movie. No, I'm sorry. I apologize. The Batman movie. And she says, "Man, this is really dark. You owe me." I said, "I owe you for a lot more than this. So I appreciate you." And I thought we were really connecting in that platonic friendship, non-pressure thing. Then a couple of days later, when I suggested about moving around some finances so we can enjoy life while we're young, well, don't do any of that because I want a divorce. So we're in a place now where, yeah, we did have a day like that, and I thought it was the beginning of some sort of a rebirth or renaissance, and it wound up being just another spoke in the wheel.
Yeah, I hear you. If I may put something on the table and for you to leave with today and think more about, right? Think more about and journal more about, it would be, what if she is simply done with that structure of relationship because of what I described of her feeling so vulnerable? And we're not getting into her perceived hurts and all that. Like not trying to get into the weeds here, but what if she's just done? Let's for the rest of her life, maybe, I don't know. What if she's just done with the structure of marriage, but she wants to have time like you described, Batman movie, sharing a sub, having fun, one-on-one. What if that, in other words, what if you straight up did not care what the structure of the relationship was, you as a man?
I think I'm good with that. To be honest with you, compared to Limbo Land, she has made the call, and I'm good with what you're describing. I enjoy her company. I love the sound of her voice. I think we could potentially rebuild something. I didn't realize how much pressure she was feeling going through all of her gyrations. So that what if, I think, is would be fine with me. And it's not me settling for breadcrumbs. It's me, refocusing the fact that I genuinely like this person. I sent her a text Friday night, and it was the first time I've contacted her in about a week. And it was a balloon I took a picture of in a supermarket for Happy Mother's Day. And it wasn't a manipulation. I said, I saw this. I thought of you. I'm grateful to God first and you second for these 3 great kids that have grown up to be solid human beings. And I hope you're having a good week. And, so I know I'm doing this the right way. I think what my deacon says to me holds true, though. You're making a lot of strides, but they've got to be 100% consistent behaviors.
Sure. I agree. However, you're human. So, right. So I'll put this last thing on the table. So yes, 100% consistent is like an archetype. Okay. Then we're human and we stumble sometimes, but an archetype, there's the masculine archetype I was talking about and the feminine archetype. And here's the last piece, and I'll take a step forward, George. So the masculine archetype, if you fully feel into your masculinity wants freedom. Your masculinity wants to feel experience and adventure and move through fear to love. Hence the 3 words that I shared earlier. Yeah. So the masculine is not interested or even concerned about relationship at all. Relationship structure. That's an archetype. The feminine archetype, all the way over to the other, well, not cliche, but none of us are perfect. None of us are 100% in an archetype, but the feminine is the one that wants relationship. She wants to yearn. She wants to feel growth within the love and connection between the 2 of you. And she wants to pour herself. She wants to pour herself into another frame. She wants to pour herself into the adventure of the man's frame. Yeah. And so the more masculine you present yourself to be, the less you'll care about the structure of a relationship. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't. I'm a romantic kind of guy. I love long-term relationship. And who was it that at the beginning, I think it was Mike. Yeah. Mike said, I've started to give less fucks, right? I care, but I've started to give less fucks, you know. And I thought about this the other day, George, of there's tragedy all over the world. There's horrible things happening all the time, and I care, but those aren't within my control. You know, I can choose to go give to Rotary and affect what I can in volunteer work and service work and this work, right? I can reach out as far as I feel is going to be effectual. And then beyond that, I care. Of course I care about people, but it's beyond my control. So the masculine part of us, the relationship, is really not part of the masculine piece of our concern. So George, something to think about. Appreciate you being on here.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you. All right, I'll jump back to this list. I'm going to go over to Jeff. Jeff, I see you being present with us. I appreciate it. So how does this hit you, Jeff? A man with edge. Let me share it again. A man with edge. He's present like I've seen you be on camera very well. I can see you've been doing work in this area. Follows your own compass. Passionate about your own self and your own life and your direction. Totally okay in tense moments. Knows how to find gratitude under pain and willing to face challenge and death. Which one of those really resonates with you, Jeff?
Well, actually, all of them do, quite frankly. When you started asking questions, everybody, you asked about purpose. And I think it really goes back to that for me. Because I think one of the biggest things that I did in my life, and I don't mean big in terms of accomplishment necessarily, but a response, was to recognize that I wasn't well. And this really started when I came back from Vietnam and I went back to college. And someone took a photograph of me as I was walking across campus. And they showed it to me. And I saw a really angry, raging person. And I wasn't aware of it. And the shock of it made me realize, oh my God, I have to do something. I had to do something about myself. So I think the focus for me all these years has been the self. That's not the kind of focus that disregards other people. I think I was immature in terms of empathy, being able to express empathy or experience empathy, but I did recognize there were people around me. But it made me recognize that anything that was going to happen in my life that was going to be good or worthwhile, it started with me trying to find what was going on inside of me and resolve it. So when you talk about things like emotions and thought and feelings, the work that I've done with others on myself has been to get in touch with my feelings, my deepest feelings. Okay. I found that my emotions and my thoughts were really hooked to trauma. They were really influenced by and sometimes molded by trauma. And I came to realize that my experience of myself and my relationship with the world around me and people around me was really being governed by the trauma and the desire to avoid trauma. So what did I do? I ended up trying to be in control. Because when you can be in control, you can then avoid all the things that trigger your memories and the things inside of you that bring up trauma. So the whole purpose of everything that I've been doing is to get in touch with my deepest feelings, because to me, those feelings were pre-trauma. And when I get in touch with them, I find something really beautiful. And I don't have to think about what I'm going to do in the world. I don't have to think about my responses. It's almost like that's who I am. There's nothing to think about. There's nothing to question. Just be in your feelings. And everything seems to go so beautifully when I am. And when I'm in my head and my emotions, it all turns to shit. I really and I can see it. There's always been a part of me that can see what's going on. It hasn't always been in a position to influence it, but it sees it. And it lets me know, wow, this is really fucked up. Why are you responding like this? And even asking that question sometimes doesn't necessarily bring a proper response, because sometimes it's just the energy is so powerful. I'm moving in a direction I don't want to go in. And sometimes it doesn't come back to me until the damage has been done.
Yeah.
But some of the things that I've done, meditation, I started out with primal therapy way back after I came back from Nam and I saw that picture. I started out with the original primal therapy with Dr. Janov. That was powerful and painful. And I know he's been debunked since then, but I just think that for me, it was really beautiful, amazing. Meditation, I've been doing all these years. And I recently, EFT, emotional, tapping.
Mhm.
So these things have really helped, but I felt that things weren't going well. And my wife could see that. And she's really evolved. And she cares about me. And she started talking to me about good guys to great men. So back in December, I began to watch the videos, and then I joined, and I've done the university and read a lot of the books that are recommended. And it really helped, and it's still helping. And I sometimes take 2 steps forward and a step back, and that's painful for both of us.
Yeah.
But I'm a human being, but I'm progressing. So the things that you pointed out to me were on that list are all important. But there's one thing that seems to become the most important at all, Jeff, and that is that in all these years, I've recognized and been helped to recognize that it's a reality. Once I was born, and someday I'm going to die. And one of the greatest things that I heard was the message, and I feel it, I believe it. There's a purpose to human life. And that's my journey, is to find out who I am and what is my relationship to the universe, to life. And where am I going to go when I leave here, if there is a going? And when I go, I have a prayer, and I hope that all the work that I'm doing is going to take me to that place before I die. But certainly when I do die, I want to be innocent. I want to feel innocence, and I want to have immense curiosity. And if I can have that before I go, I think my life will be just, oh my God, I can't even imagine. But certainly at that point, I definitely need that, because that's the great journey. That's the door to the unknown. And I don't want to be afraid of the unknown. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I sit down to meditate, and I see the day ahead of me and I feel fear because it's unknown and I don't know where the attack is going to come from. And if I do really focus in meditation, when I get up, I feel great. I don't care. I'm fine. I don't care what comes at me. I'll be okay. So it's this wrestling between these two different experiences. So that's
and innocence and curiosity, Jeff, incredible. And I could just ask you to talk all the rest of the time, by the way. I don't know if you relate to Jeff's great. So innocence, and you're humble too. I love it. So innocence and curiosity. Do you feel like you have those in your life now? What do you maybe not have within that realm that you're wanting?
a constant attachment to innocence. I feel in terms of innocence, it's not about not making mistakes. It's about recognizing that I do make mistakes, and it's okay. It's about seeing things as they really are, and not looking at things and suddenly just pulling over, my fear, my anxiety. I can look at things and see it not as it is, but according to the filters that I've got. My wife says something to me and I get angry. My wife is a very strong, focused person. She's really clear. I have to say, she's really a remarkable human being. And she will say, as a couple, or even just me alone, this has to happen. This has to be done. This is how it should be done. And I have to say that she's almost always right. She's just a very smart person. And I eventually agree with her. But when it first happens, my filters go, stop telling me what to do. You're going to control me, and I don't know where this is going to go. And I'm afraid. So I want to be able to see things as they really are, and not as the way I interpret them based on past experience when I was a child. And I couldn't say, stop, don't do that to me. It's hurting me. And I just absorbed it, and it became my reality. So I want to be able to have that innocence, be able to see things. I don't want to not discriminate. I don't want to lose that ability to discriminate. Oh, man, I don't want to go in this place because I don't think it's a healthy place to be in. I want to be able to discriminate, but I want to still be innocent and be able to see the best in people before I see the worst in people. So I'd like to have more of that as much as possible.
Yeah, beautiful, Jeff. I so appreciate you being here. Absolutely. And I hope to spend more time around you. Fantastic. I love your journey and
Okay, thank you.
bringing your energy here. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it. Say, Kurt, let's jump over to you. I saw Stacy, like I said, had his camera on, and Harry's here. Tom's got his camera on now too. Jim's here. Yeah, Kurt, coming in.
Hey guys, thanks.
I'll ask one more time about this little short list, and then we'll bop forward to some more stuff. A man with edge.
Yeah,
Present, follows his compass. Yeah, please.
so not to back up and take up too much time, but back up at the triangle there, where you have the fear, love, and freedom. I'm stuck in that fear zone right now, where all of this is relatively new to me. My wife told me she wanted to separate from me back in October of 2021. And we've been separated for 6 months now. She said she needed time and space. We've been together 28 years, high school sweethearts. I'm 46, she's 43. She thought she was doing the whole midlife crisis kind of thing. She has had an affair with someone that she met while traveling with her best friend. So right now, the zone that I'm in is I'm still in that fear zone where I don't, we're not filing for divorce or anything. We're staying separated. But, I'm afraid to go talk to a lawyer. I'm afraid to admit that it's real. And what that fear is doing is it's keeping me from trying to locate, or not locate, trying to identify my purpose. What do I want to do? I mean, for my entire life, since I was 18 years old, everything's been about her. And then about our two kids, I've got a 17-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old daughter. I devoted everything to them. And, and she's even said, none of this is my fault. This is all her, and, I've gotten the whole spiel, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Not directly said like that, but it's real similar. I mean, it's a story that, tons of people have. I'm definitely not alone in that regard. But I've got to find a way to get myself through the fear of not having the love of my life around before I can figure out what I want to do. I don't know how to figure out what I want to do with my life because it's been so devoted to them.
I hear you, man. I hear you. And I feel,
Mhm.
dude, I've been in your spot, and I think every man's been in your spot. So
Yeah,
can I ask you a quick question? I'll give you an
sure.
experiment, right? Thought experiment. So you may or may not have heard this before. It's called the alien abduction story, right? Flying saucer comes through the clouds, green tractor beam of light sucks your wife up into the saucer, and it flies away, never to be seen again. And there's a period of grieving, certainly a period of grieving, of course, however long that may be, I don't know. But after that period of grieving, yeah, what would you do with your life? Would you live in the same place? Would your kids go to the same school? Would you build certain hobbies? What would you do that you weren't doing before, regardless of any women? So let's say you take a break from women in relationship. I'm asking just about you. What would you do with your life in that instance?
Well, I'm definitely into woodworking. I could basically film, the new Yankee workshop in my house here. I mean, I've got so much stuff.
Yeah.
And, I've kind of gotten away from that. We bought a new house 2 years ago. My old house had a huge workshop. My new house, I've got to kind of split things up a little bit between the garage and an outbuilding. But I really want to get back into that. So that's something that I really enjoyed doing that. And I think when we were living in that older house, I'd go out there so much, not so much, but I'd be out there working on things, kind of giving her space, because one of her big issues was she was feeling kind of smothered, and I think COVID had a lot to do with that too, because I was at home all the time, working from home, and she didn't have to, she could still go in and out of her office. Getting back into that and getting back into, I'm a big hunter and fisherman, kind of going out and doing those things. A lot of it's hard to do when you've got daughters. Of course, I'm not saying that females can't do those kind of things, but their interest isn't there, to hunt. Their interest kind of there.
How old are your kids?
17 and 14.
Okay, so they can pretty much take care of themselves.
Yeah, pretty much. You
Yeah.
know, the 17-year-old, you know, she's got her first real boyfriend and she's, you know, yeah, with him all the time. I totally get that. You know, been there, done that. So not so concerned with her. The 14-year-old really, you know, she's very emotional. She wears her heart on her sleeve, takes everything to heart. She's a people pleaser and she's trying to please me and her mom at the same time. You know, so there are things that I know that I want to get back involved in, and you know, and I want to do that I've kind of put on the back burner. Um, and I need to build friendships. Like I have, you know, one friend that I can rely on. That's been my best friend since high school, but that's pretty much it. You know, and I can't call on him, you know, to go do things all the time because he's got a wife and a child. You know, he's got his life. You know, so I need to build my friendships with the right people. I kind of started to try to do that, but I was going about it the wrong way. I was going to, you know, bars and stuff and meeting
Right.
people, and kind of not really my bag.
Yeah. What
Uh,
state are you in, Kurt?
I'm in Virginia. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I'm
So
in.
so if I may jump in, I mean,
Sure.
couple things, right? You're in the place to make friendships with amazing men literally all over the world. I counted 5 continents the other day, right? Don't have South America yet. I don't speak Portuguese or Spanish very well. So five continents. And I meet men around the country 2, 3, 4 times a year. For instance, and we go shooting, we just do gatherings, North Carolina, I mean, Boston, Fort Worth,
Right.
you know, just east of Spokane and Idaho. I'm going at the end of this month, right? So like you want to be around good dudes, and you may have a whiskey by the fire, but you're not trying to be drinking buddies kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So first of all, you're in the right place. Yeah. If I may circle back briefly to your question or your scenario about fear of,
Sure.
so you probably know this intellectually, and I want to put my heart on the table for you and say it's fucking hard to detox
Yeah.
from the, how do I want to put this, from the almost slightly naive bliss, the naive bliss of being unconscious, to the ways that we've been not owning ourself, not stepping toward freedom or fear, that we've
Right.
been leaning more and more and more on her, on, you know, inadvertently as mommy, and didn't have, you know, we all found this group through this work. It's not, we're not initiated into this. Yeah, my father didn't know how to talk about this. I didn't have, you know, my buddies, my best buddy from childhood, Kurt, about 7 years ago, didn't even tell me he was going through a divorce until it was done. That was my best friend from childhood. You know, we get together and do stuff and whatever, but he lives in a different state now. So, but anyway, back to your, so I just want to acknowledge that moving toward being this man with edge is also moving away from her appeasing us and validating us and comforting us, which to our boyhood self, right, that little boy within us, is really hard and painful. Is really
that
hard.
codependency is that's a tough thing to kick. It really is. It's you know, and my youngest, you know, she's codependent on both me and her mom. I see it in her in the ways that me and her mom interacted and everything. And so, you know, trying to subtly, you know, trying to keep her away from certain things. But yeah, the codependency part and relying on her for, you know, my happiness essentially drove her away. Yeah, it's real tough to kick, and it's, you know, it's been very helpful. I've been working with Charlie McKeever for a couple of weeks now, and you know, things are starting to make sense and starting to become clear. But yeah, it's definitely tough to get out of that fear spot to figure out what I want to do, you know, rather than just sitting around this house that we, you know, put together to, you know, as a couple and a family, and it's just me sitting here, you know, and then the kids every other week, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, Kurt, I appreciate you being here. Charlie's a phenomenal dude. I know Charlie quite well, and you're in the right hands. And yeah, there's I was saying the alien abduction story. Yeah, for her, that's the same thing about your belief of what was the relationship going to be like.
Right.
You know, all the future chapters of the relationship, at the very least, are going to be rewritten, if
Right.
not just torn out and thrown in the garbage, if you will.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like, right? It's what it feels like.
Right.
And so
Right.
that grieving the death of version 1.0, as we say, or grieving the
Yep.
death of what you thought was going to be, is a whole process. And you're in the right place, man. I appreciate being here.
Yeah. Good. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for having me here, guys.
Absolutely. I'll press pause. So for sake of time, I may not be able to get to everyone who has their camera on. I love when you guys have your cameras on. I'm going to step forward into some other things I wanted to share that I prepared for you today. So I have 3 brief excerpts from this book by David Data, which is an advanced book. So I would say this is probably, your 10th book, your 15th book that you want to read in this work. So if you haven't heard of this book and you haven't read at least a half dozen other books, I would wait on this one. It's a little bit more advanced. And so I'll just pull a couple of excerpts from it. From chapter 8, Lean Just Beyond Your Edge. And this, of course, has to do with those 3 words I said earlier: fear, and then joy, and then freedom. So this one is about fear. In any given moment, a man's growth is optimized if he leans just beyond his edge, his capacity, his fear. Staying with the fear, staying at your edge, allows real transformation to occur. Neither lazy nor aggressive, playing your edge allows you to perceive the moment with the least amount of distortion. You're willing to be with what is, rather than trying to escape it by pulling back from it, or trying to escape it by pushing beyond it into some future goal. So Sven Masterson and I are going to talk deeply about these chapters from Way of the Superior Man and Masters in Manhood, the group that we're launching here soon. And I'll share more about that with you in a moment. But I pulled some movie posters, right? So here's Fight Club and here's Rocky. And think about, so Edward Norton, right? The narrator, the narrator is not Tyler Durden in the movie. You've seen the movie, right? So the narrator has all these fears that he's skirting, or he's trying to get that perfect, the perfect couch or the perfect IKEA shit so that his life is complete, right? He's trying to guard his fears. He's trying to do everything perfectly so that he has the perfect life, and some kind of covert contract executes and the nice guy gets what he wants, right? So he's facing his fears throughout this movie until he's integrated at the end, right? At the end, he faces his own fears. He's willing to step in and integrate himself. And that's the epitome of this movie. Yeah, Rocky, what fears is he facing every time, including Sylvester Stallone? I mean, if you haven't heard the challenge that Sylvester Stallone went through to get Rocky produced and purchased, like, go look that up. That's a phenomenal story, documentary. Okay, I'll move pretty quick here for sake of time. Chapter 9 of Way of the Superior Man, I pulled this: do it for love. The way a man penetrates the world should be the same way he penetrates his woman, not merely for personal gain or pleasure, but to magnify love, openness, and depth. The next time you embrace your woman sexually, feel your ultimate desire, your deepest desire in life. And I'll talk about this in a second. Feel why you are doing anything at all in life, and specifically, why you are uniting with your lover. There may be many lesser reasons, but what is your deepest ultimate reason? Most men's ultimate reason for doing anything has to do with discovering their deepest truth, enjoying total freedom and love, and giving their fullest gifts. Giving their fullest gifts, deepest love. Someone asked, Larry asked if I could share the slides. I'll find a way to do that. If I can take pictures at the very least. I have this within Google, my Google Drive, so I'll see what I can do. So sharing love, your deepest desire in life. How do you express this when you penetrate the world, right? Why are you doing anything? What's your ultimate reason for doing anything? Your deepest truth, total freedom and love, giving your fullest gift. So briefly, again, Sven Masterson and I talk about this in Masters in Manhood, and I don't have too much time, but briefly, I didn't grow up religious. I didn't have any concept of God or what that meant. And really, when I was about, 15 years ago ish, as 15 years, I've been studying different types of spirituality and meditation. I visited Buddhist temples in Southeast Asia. I put my head down at Chichen Itza and Tikal, and I haven't been to Machu Picchu yet, though, Larry. I'm jealous. And so I've done a lot of my own introspection. And to me, the way I feel God is when I think about standing at the top of a mountain, when I think about standing on the Oregon coast overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Yeah. When I think about touching a brick wall in Savannah, Georgia, that was created in the 1800s, and think about who created that wall, right? Same within Machu Picchu, like the history of Mayans being wiped out and trying to feel back into history. So I'll try, I'm taking longer than I wanted to, but to feel nature or the history of experience flow through me in that moment. So, when you look at a mountain, it's like, oh, this is beautiful. And you're in that present moment. Well, when you're with your woman, you can remember the time you were on top of the mountain. You can remember when you were touching that wall in another country or in Savannah, Georgia. And the feeling you got when you were touching that wall or seeing that beautiful ocean or mountain, you bring that into your presence when you're with your woman, or you bring that into your presence when you're making a choice in career, when you're making a choice to point your compass, when you're making a choice to do anything. You can bring that beauty, that awe, that gratitude back into your mind and into your breath. Like literally pretend that you're there for 5 seconds in your mind. Like, wow, that was amazing. Okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to kiss my woman? How am I going to invite her out to have a glass of wine with me? So within the 3 minutes that it took me to talk about that, that's what this means to me. And I'll speak much more deeply about this if we talk one-on-one or if you're in a group with me. Your dark side. This is from chapter 35, by the way, the Superior Man. You are always searching for freedom. The essential masculine ecstasy is in the moment of release from constraint. So again, masculine archetypal ecstasy, the archetype. This could occur when facing death and living through it, succeeding in and thus being released from your purpose. So if you succeed in something, again, if you make a whole bunch of money or you get that promotion, you succeed, and thus you are released from your immediate purpose. And so this is why you then want something new to do pretty damn quick. What's the next goal? Because you're being released and therefore you need a new purpose as a masculine man. And in competition, which is a ritual threat of death. The masculine is always seeking release from constraint into freedom. Again, the archetype, the archetypal part of you is always seeking release from constraint into freedom. The feminine often doesn't understand these masculine ways and needs. Men being at their edge, giving it all they've got, up against death itself, motivated by a higher cause, all evoke intense emotion in men. The capacity to face death for the sake of freedom, whether actually in war or ritually on the football field or chessboard, is the ultimate masculine act, evoking men's deepest emotions. The same capacity to face death is necessary for spiritual freedom. To live free in spirit, you must be willing to face your fears and let go of anything that limits your love. And Jeff was giving us a beautiful example earlier of how he does that moment to moment. Innocence and curiosity. The attachment to comfort and security is what limits most men in their capacity to make a spiritual touchdown. So again, do I have the right IKEA furniture? Does she love me today? These attachments limit most men in their capacity to make a spiritual touchdown. And I grabbed two, of course, the most iconic, right? Braveheart and Gladiator. Seeking freedom for the one that they love, for what they love, through their passion, through their skills, through who they know themselves to be. All right, we've got 2 minutes left. I want to share a couple of posts that men have said on the forums, some successes and some wins that they've shared on the forum. And I'll do that here. It'll only take a couple of minutes. I'm going to post in the chat right now the group that I'm beginning with Sven Masterson. This is launching actually Monday, May 16th. We've entitled it Masters in Manhood, just like our podcast. Sven and I, and also Mark Dreska has been a guest on some of those. I've got those posted on YouTube. They're 90-minute podcasts, and we base our questions off of you as the man first. And so this group is an advanced group. So yes, your relationship is important, okay? But we're doing group mentoring, Sven and I both are, for advanced men looking to move back into the next chapters of your own skin and your own confident self. You want to feel the vigor of yourself at a deeper level. Yeah. And so if you're curious about this, you can ask me questions, you can ask Sven questions, or go to that webpage, which is the information and sign up page, greatmenmovemountains.com/masters in manhood that you see on the screen right there. And if you want to know more about this, just let me know. I'm pumped to be doing this with Sven. He and I have done that free podcast for months now, and this is the first professional group course and live group calls that we're doing together. There's going to be 40 calls over a whole year. It's a 1-year program, and we're doing calls every Monday except for the last Monday of each month. So that's 40 calls throughout the whole year, 1-hour calls. They're going to be doing live coaching, depth, challenge, guidance. So here's a couple of testimonials to finish this out for today. These are from my forum, Great Men Move Mountains, on Facebook. Hey guys, we all have different experiences, and I'll share a sample of what I've encountered recently. My separated but living together wife admitted early this morning when I got off my night shift, she wanted to talk and started opening up about how she's been frustrated with me. She'd noticed in the last 3 to 5-ish months that I don't react basically anymore. I don't get pulled into her vortex of emotional battles she may be having, and was wondering how I've managed to be such a different man and how I've managed to stay within the same positive energy regardless of anything she says, acts, stomps around, or turns cold towards me. The strong voice inside my head said, high five to myself. But my outside voice asked the curious question, tell me more about what that looks like to you and why it makes you frustrated. The response was a surprise. She admitted to wanting me to react, what withdrawal or pursue, to ask her what's wrong, basically all the old ways I used to be for years. She actually used the words testing me without her even thinking about it. I calmly paused, took a breath, kept a little smirk, and said, this is the man I'm learning to be. This is the man I want to be. And this is the man I will be in the future, no matter who challenges me. She responded with a big hug and said, this is the man she never thought I would be or could be. And she's been immensely surprised that I actually had the understanding of how to get there. This was a good thing, and I wanted to share and thank all. Yeah, fantastic. So 2 more short ones. I love these. I feel I'm turning the corner and getting excited for the life I'm creating. My relationship with my daughters is better than it's ever been. These aren't pictures of them, by the way. I just pulled these offline. My relationship with my daughters is better than it's ever been. I value the time I spend with them more than I have in the past. It seems maybe I took that for granted in the past. I'm focused on my health and fitness in a way I've never been. I look forward to going to the gym like never before. I'm getting my focus back at work. I'm being considered for promotion. I keep busy during the week with scheduled groups. I'm starting to reach out to friends again. I work on myself daily. I have a lot to be grateful for in my life. He's at his masculine edge for sure. Last one. Now that I'm out of all serious relationships, I've really decided to challenge myself to find me, to pick up old hobbies and create new ones. And for a win in life, I went out and got roof racks for my car to carry my new kayak. I'm going to buy a surfboard. I haven't been surfing in 20 years, and I signed up to get my motorcycle license. I'm so ready to create my new life for me. And I know this man's gotten his motorcycle license since he posted this. I love it. So reach out to me. I'm on the forums. I'm on mentoring.men. I'm in Great Men Move Mountains Facebook group, of course. You can go to my website, greatmenmovemountains.com. You can always email me or text me. I'm here. I am you, guys. I am you. And I'm always surrounding myself with amazing men like you to increase my edge, to have masterful guys around me. Yeah. And that's what this group that Sven and I are doing as well. So I'd love to see you in there. Ask me more questions. Post on the free forum. Reach out to me by email. Love seeing you guys. Mike, Larry, Jeff, Kurt, Harry, Amin, Tom, Jim, Stacy. Love when you guys have your cameras on. You guys are fantastic. Mike was here, Brian and Herb. Have a great rest of your weekend, guys. Ciao.